Hey, good morning. You're looking good today. This is Frank in the Brazil Times newsroom. Shout out to my friend Mark Deacon, who thinks I don't drink enough coffee because he doesn't see me with a cup online very often. And to my friend Dick Monroe, who lives in Crawfordsville and is going through some hard times right now, but he was extremely good to my family and I when we were going through some hard times. So I just want to give a shout out to Dick and Betty Monroe. John Wilbur's here. Hey, John, glad to see you. Lori Brown, we're glad to have you with us today. And in the Brazil Times today, here's what we're looking at. Well, let's do this first. We will check out what's online. And we see that there was an accident with no major injuries. That took place Thursday afternoon at the intersection of National Avenue and Wesleyan Church Drive. And Police Chief Clint McQueen said there were no major injuries in that accident. A community yard sale to benefit the Clay County Youth Food Program is planned for 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. March 4th at the Clay County Fairgrounds. All the items for the sale will be donated by members of the community and will be offered as a free will donation or free if a donation cannot be offered. Any donations received will benefit the Clay County Youth Food Program, which is a local organization that is run in conjunction with the Clay County YMCA. And I got a text, or not a text, but a message on Facebook yesterday asking about that story we wrote concerning the YMCA and the Forest Park pool. Somebody was under the impression that the city had sold the pool. That's not the case. The city and the YMCA are negotiating for the YMCA to manage the pool. And at this month's meeting of the Park Board, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the Park Board outlining certain parts of that memorandum. And the Park Board also said that they were certainly open to minor changes by the YMCA board. So the last I checked, those negotiations were still underway and the memorandum was still being reviewed by the YMCA. So hopefully we'll have final news for you about that. But I don't know, a lot of people think that that would be a great thing for both the community and the YMCA if the YMCA could offer its programs through the Forest Park pool. Okay, also in the news, the Facade Grant Program for the Downtown Historic District and what it would mean to be recognized as a stellar community will be the subject of a talk by Brazil Mayor Brian Windham. The public is invited, and Windham will be the guest of the Clay County Historical Society on March 6 at 7 p.m. in the lower level of the museum. Man, a lot of great things going on in Brazil. Hey, Wally Hooker's here. Glad to see you, Wally. But this is something that's really important, isn't it? I mean, the facade grants, I know that, I don't know if it's the same thing or not, but I know that Lynn's Pharmacy is redoing the front of their building with a grant that they received. And that's exciting. And to be a part of the stellar communities of Indiana would be outstanding because of the doors of opportunity it would open as far as additional grants and so forth. So that's something coming up March 6th at 7 p.m. in the lower level of the Historical Society Museum, the old post office on US 40 in Brazil, something you probably want to attend. A judge has entered a not guilty plea Thursday on behalf of 4 people charged with neglect in the death of a malnourished 9-year-old Western Indiana boy with cerebral palsy. Vigo Superior Court Judge Michael Lewis set a $250,000 bond for the defendants during the initial court appearance and ordered the appointment of attorneys to represent them. You can see more of that story on our website. The FBI has taken over the call tip line for the murders of those 2 teenage girls in Delphi. Now when people call 844-459-5786, that number will ring right into the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. They want to find out who is responsible for the terrible, tragic deaths of those two teenagers. We can't overemphasize how terrible that was, can we? Just bad stuff up there at Delphi. Radio broadcasting from 111 West National Avenue in Brazil will be delayed until May and possibly early June, said Dave Crooks, president and general manager of DLC Incorporated. Crooks had planned to broadcast from the Brazil studios on US 40 weeks ago when the company took ownership of the former Lifeheights menswear building. Jack Lifeheit passed away in 2015. And Crooks said, then we found out we needed an actual drawing and design from the state to sign off on, which delayed us by about 6 or 8 weeks. But we finally got that taken care of and got all the permits released, Crooks said this week. But because we're putting the satellite dish facing US 40 at 111 West National on top of Jack's former store, we have to reinforce that with some specialized fabricated steel to make that safe, and that's going to take 3 to 4 more weeks to get that done before we can create the rooms in the building that will house the 3 radio stations that are coming to town. Crooks said he hopes the company can begin building the walls for the studios and other rooms inside the building by the beginning of May and have the 3 stations, which are WFNB and WFNF, Brazil stations, and WVIG Sealyville, which is also going to operate out of the Brazil studios, by the middle of May or by Memorial Day, but I'm hoping we can beat that date, he said. Meanwhile, the Waxy signal from Rockville is being simulcast on WFNB 92.7 FM. And there's more from Dave Crooks in today's online edition of the Brazil Times. And let's see. Okay, let's check out sports. In today's paper edition of the Brazil Times, Kerry Fox reports from Clay City. Got to pull out my spectacles here. Got to look like the grandpa I am. 4 Clay City seniors played their final game on their home court Thursday night as Riverton Park came calling. The Eels were in tune-up mode heading into sectional play after a lopsided home loss to Vincennes Rivet on Tuesday. While the Eels weren't able to send Dylan Ferris, Gavin Myers, Nathan Farmer, and Jared Stagg out with a victory, Clay City saw some positives in a 52-45 loss to the Panthers. Those guys are going to be missed when it is all said and done, Eels head coach Vance Edmondson said. I'm proud of them, and I know that they will do great things when they get out of here. I'm glad they played well in their last home game. Hopefully, they know they have a little more work to do. So, that's in sports today. And I always got to tell you about the family circus. Jeffy comes in, and he's leaning against the front door, and his books are down on the floor, and he says, that's it. I'm done learning for today. Know how you feel, Jeffy, and don't think it's going to get better the older you get. Chris Davidson stopped by. Hey, Chris. I saw your buddy TJ last night at the ball game. My granddaughter won, by the way. Her team won 20-8, which was pretty neat up at Ladoga. Earl Hutchison is here. Good morning to Earl. Hope you have a good weekend too, Earl. Got a couple things to tell you about. Our 2017 medical directory is now published. It is in today's edition of the Brazil Times, and it will be available online in a little bit this morning. Also, here's a picture of our friend Jim Pickett. If you have not tried one of Jim Pickett's pies, oh, you need to do so. God bless him. He brought one over for us to taste, and it is marvelous. He brought over a coconut cream pie, and oh my gosh, it is truly to die for. Well, why do I mention him? Well, he's on the front page of Senior Selections, which is also in today's edition of the Brazil Times and will be online. He's considered a superstar success story at Cloverleaf Healthcare, said Lisa Kurt, community liaison for the Skilled Nursing Home and Rehab Center in Knightsville. During a recent visit, he jumped out of bed twice, once to grab a double handful of get well cards from a dresser, and another to grab his cane and walk down the hall to therapy. "Keep up with me if you can," he told me. Well, by the time this made the paper, by the time you read this, Jim will be discharged from the nursing home and visiting his daughter, or he may already be in Las Vegas celebrating March Madness with two buddies, a trip they have taken for many years. Man, I tell you, he is not a spring chicken, but he sure acts like one. Now, why did we do his story? Well, if you don't remember, he was knocked out of a tree on October 17th. He fell 30 feet to the ground, and his return to life, as the headline says, is nothing short of a miracle. So we're very pleased to make Jim Pickett's acquaintance, and we're friends on Facebook, and I do appreciate that pie, Jim. Wow, that is fantastic. But you can read his story in today's edition of the Senior Selections magazine, and it too will be online a little bit later today. A lot more good stuff in Senior Selections today, so be sure and check that out. Terry Barr's here. Glad to see you, Terry. We already gave the announcement about the community yard sale out at the fairgrounds that's coming up, and you ladies do a tremendous job feeding children in Brazil and that might not, in Clay County, throughout Clay County, that might not have food to eat otherwise. Once again, that youth food program yard sale is scheduled 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. March 4th at the Clay County Fairgrounds. Well, that's about it for me today. I hope you have an outstanding day, outstanding weekend, and, be sure and stay active. Man, you got to do that. Walk, run, jog, play ball, stretch, take an exercise class, whatever it takes. You got to keep going and get limbered up and stay limber. Just a personal testimony. We'll see you later.